What is one of the top topics on guitar forums online is the circle of fifths. And what is the most common answer you get when you ask what you should learn and practice to be able to improvise? It's still the circle of fifths. And what is one of the most common questions you find on online forums? How do I memorize the circle of fifths? And what if my cell phone died and I can't download a picture of the circle of fifths and I didn't get a tattoo of it on the palm of my hand? And then you have to memorize keys and triads and chords and the intervals. Well, all joking aside, it looks like for a lot of people, the circle of fifths can actually solve almost any problem with composition, with modulation, and also improvisation. And sure enough, it's a very useful and interesting tool for any musician, not just for guitar players. But actually, what is the circle of fifths? The circle of fifths is a graphic representation of the way we can modulate from one key to the other by just changing one note, adding just one sharp or one flat. And anytime we add a sharp, we move our root, or some would say our tonic, we move up a fifth. And so if we move clockwise through the circle of fifths, we will move through a series of keys that will be a fifth above the previous one, and each one will have one more sharp. If we move in the other direction, so counterclockwise, we're going to add one flat each time, starting from C that has no alterations, and in this case, the next key is going to be a fourth apart. And the fourth interval is the complement of the fifth. So if we keep going in any direction, we're going to find ourselves back at the starting point. A very nice thing is that you can add a lot more information to the circle of fifths. It can display what chords belong to any key, how many flats, how many sharps, and their names. The problem is, how do you memorize all this information? Because we can't always carry a picture of the circle of fifths with us. But there's a thing that not a lot of people realize, and that's that every time we pick up our guitar, we actually get a real computer in our hands, a calculator. We're holding a tool that can show us all these relationships, all the information that we need to memorize the circle of fifths with very little effort. And just like on a real computer, we just have to press the right combination of keys to get the info we're looking for. For example, in this case, the first thing that we want to find out is what the sequence of fifths is. And we can start taking a look at the guitar. We all know that these two strings are tuned in a major third. Actually, they're auto-tuned in this case. The other strings are tuned in fourths. And so, this interval, that is C and F, is a fourth too. C to G is a fifth. We know that on the guitar, the shapes and the fingerings don't change even though we may move up and down the fretboard. It's very different from a keyboard where we always have to check where the white and black keys are. And so, if this interval is a fifth, anywhere we move it, it's going to be a fifth. So we can take notice of this shape, sort of like an L shape, that really reminds me of the movement of the knight on the chessboard. This shape will always be a fifth. Wherever we may move it, it's going to stay a fifth. So we can solve our problem very easily. We're looking for the series of consecutive fifths that starts from C, and we can find them here. So it should be quite easy to memorize it. But maybe playing the fifth this way could still be a little bit complicated. So we can see if there's an easier way. We see that we can play G even down here at the lower octave. So if this L-shaped movement is a fifth, this broader L-shaped movement is an octave. So CG is a fifth, and G is the next key in the circle of fifths. But we can play G down here. And the next key in line is D. From D, we should go up to A, and we can play it down here. And then we go up a fifth to E. So the trick is quite easy, because instead of going all up the fretboard like this, we can just repeat this pattern. And this is the sequence of fifths: C, G, D, A, E, sharp and C sharp. And every time we move to the next key in the circle, we add one sharp. So we have no sharp, one sharp, two sharp, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in fact, in the key of C sharp, all 7 notes are sharp. So the clockwise part of the circle of fifths, the one that adds sharps as we move along it, is really very easy to memorize. But we can also find the name of the sharp we need to add every time. And in fact, in a lot of pictures of the circle, we not only see the number of flats and sharps that we need to add, but also the name of the alterations we need to add for every step. And so if we start from C and move to G, we add one sharp, and this note is going to be, obviously, it's the major seventh in the new key. And this note doesn't belong to the key of C. C major is, while G is. And so the note we're looking for is, it's F sharp, and it's the note that is a half tone below the root of the new key. The Simpsons. Sorry about that. And then the next key is D. Then C sharp will be the next sharp we add. And then again, we got G sharp for the key of A, D sharp for the key of E, and so on. But we can simplify things by observing that all the sharps that we add in are in fact the major seventh of the new key. So the interval from one to the other is going to be a fifth too. And so we can start from the first one, that's the F sharp, and repeat the same pattern as before. So F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, B sharp. And so this method shows us the sequence of all the sharps that appear in the circle of fifths, but not only that, it can also show us the exact order in which sharps appear on a score. And in fact, we don't write down the sharps at the beginning of a score in a random order, but we follow the circle of fifths. And so F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and so on. But this is just the first half of the circle of fifths, because despite its name, we can also go backwards anti-clockwise. We're going to move through the circle in fourths to find the keys with flats. We will start again from C, and we said we're going to move in fourths. So this is going to be even easier because the fourth is the note right above, and so it's F. And so we can find the sequence of keys with flats in a very simple way, starting from C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. And there's a couple missing. But we can also use the same method as before, because maybe it's even easier. We go from C to F, from F to B flat, but we can also find B flat in the lower octave. And then the next key is E flat. Then again, the next one is A flat. We can find it down here. So we can use the same trick that we used before. But this time we go backwards on these two strings to find our keys. From C to F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and C flat. And so we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flats. Obviously, when we get to D flat, that is the same note as C sharp, we rejoin the circle. At the same point, we reach going clockwise. So we see the sum of the keys overlap. They're called an harmonic, so they have different names even though the pitch is the same. C sharp and D flat are actually the same note. The same goes for G sharp and A flat. B and C flat have the same pitch. When we go through the key counterclockwise, we can see that the flat we add to go to the next key is the same note as the root of the next key on the circle. That is, to play in the key of F, we need to add B flat. To play in the key of B flat, we add E flat. To play in the key of E flat, we add A flat. And even in this case, since the keys move in fourths, and so does the series of flats, if we want to see what is the note that we need to add to go to the next key, we can start from B flat. So B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat. and the last one is C flat. And even in this case, the order of flats is the same one as we can see at the beginning of a score, exactly the same. And again, we start from B flat, E flat, A flat, and so on. And so we have seen that using these geometric shapes, we can find a lot of information on the neck of our guitar. But this is just the beginning. You probably noticed that in a lot of pictures, we can find a lot more information on the circle of fifths. Like in this picture, we can see all the chords that belong to a certain key. And in fact, this diagram is also called a chord wheel. And we can also see what are the major and minor chords in the key. We have seen before that this interval is a fourth, and this one is a fifth. And we should remember, if we learn just a little bit of music theory, that in any given key, we can build major chords on the first, fourth, and fifth degree. And in this case, C, F, and G are the major chords in the key of C. And all these chords use notes from the scale of C major. And again, we can visualize the same L shape as before. Or maybe you could think of some other way to visualize it. Something that is clear to you, or maybe something that you can easily remember. If you want to see what the minor chords are, in a way we'll have to reverse that L shape. And we're going to start from the 6th degree of the scale. So this is the first, fourth, and the fifth. And this is the 6th. Then we go down to the 3rd degree and the 2nd. Or we could do all of it the other way around, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd degree. So we can visualize them as two L shapes. One this way, and another like this. This is the 6th degree, A minor. This is the 3rd degree, E minor. And here we can find the 2nd degree, D minor. And all these chords are built with notes that belong to the C major scale. We're still missing the chord on the 7th degree. And that is B in our case. We can visualize the 7th degree as the note 1/2 tone below the root of the key. And there are different places where we can visualize it. This is the first that comes to mind. And this is another one. And on this note, we build a half diminished chord. So we can see that with very little movement, we were able to find all the chords that belong to a key and what are the major chords and the minor chords, or diminished. So we found all the info that we can see on the picture of the circle of fifths of the chord wheel. So to recap, to find the sequence of keys in the circle of fifths, we just have to follow this simple pattern: C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, and C sharp. If you want to know the number of sharps, we just need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you want to know the names of the sharps, we look for the note 1/2 step below the new keys root. To go from C to G, we add F sharp. From G to D, we add C sharp. From D to A, we add G sharp, and so on. Going through the circle counterclockwise, we start from C. The first key with flats in it is F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, and C flat. And then to see what the flats are, we need to add the flat that is the same as the next root. So to go from C to F, we add B flat. And then going backwards, so B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, and F flat. We also find the chords in the key, the major ones, on the 1st, 4th, and 5th degree. 2nd is minor, 3rd, and 6th are minor. And we can find the 7th degree. From C, we can go back 1/2 step to B. I think this is all for now. Let me know in the comments if you find this method interesting and useful, or if you're using different ways to memorize and visualize all of the information we see on the circle of fifths. Stay tuned for the next video.